For question, I noticed a strange thing that at the beginning of this play, Mamie used to warn Esther about George's letter that she said, "It's sweet that he writes you, but my dear, it ain't real." But later, Mamie changed her words that she thought George as a fine man, though at this time Mamie had not met George yet. For question 2, the first value represented in this play is that women at the time concerned a lot about men's literacy. Mrs. Dixon once said that her husband had fine suits and a perfect diction, and when Esther received George's letter, she thought he had a lovely penmanship, which is the mark of a thoughtful man. Then, this play conveys the perspective that a friendship could be fragile. In this play, it finally turns out that Mrs. Dixon is the only true friend of Esther. Esther first broke up with Mrs. Van Buren after she kissed her on her lips and showed her lesbian affection for her. Then she broke up with Mamie in the case of her love affair with George, her Esther's new husband. For question 3, I found that grammar mistakes frequently appear in the dialogue of these characters, like "I know right" and "I been saving." Throughout the play, after research, I found that the time is set in the early 20th century, which was when the racial problem was largely aggravated. So it is much likely that these African American characters were not so well educated and they were remained in the working class. So the entire social environment and their low social state as colored people reinforced this ridiculous marriage. For question 4, I think this intimate apparel reinvents people's understanding of African American experience. In this play, Esther is depicted as a woman who is hardworking, innocent, and genuine, that she easily believes in the words of a stranger and even decides to marry him. Also, Esther had her African American friends, Mrs. Dixon, and Esther is totally independent. The author constructed Esther in order to challenge the original figure of African American, that they were non-sexual, maternal, and only appeared as faithful servant who has no black friends. For question 5, stereotypes of African Americans and other groups still exist today. First thing I consider is appearance, because this is the most apparent characteristics that African American and other minorities like Asians and Latinos have their identical facial features that people can easily figure out. Stereotypes exist based on the difference, but stereotypes would be largely reduced through communication like group talks in a university, that white students could ask African American students or students of other race about their culture, to view the world as a whole. Last 2 questions. How do we understand the behavior that Esther claims that she loves George just based on the letter he sent her? And can we consider the relationship between Marx and Esther as a sort of infidelity since the fact that he has already had a fiancée?